Professor Ervin László, thank you so much for joining us here today to share your thoughts, your wisdom and your knowledge with the world. It's wonderful to have you here to interview you for National Mentoring Day. How are you?
I'm fine, and it's a pleasure to be with you and to be able to participate, contribute a little bit to your wonderful work.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I really wasn't sure where to start with introducing you with your background, because you have achieved so many things. Twice nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, one of the greatest philosophers of science, founder and director of the Laszlo Institute for New Paradigm Research and the Club of Budapest. You've received the highest degree in philosophy and human sciences at the Sorbonne University of Paris. And you've written over 100 books in so many different languages, hundreds of papers in scientific journals. And of course, when you were lecturing, you've lectured at so many places, primarily Yale, Princeton. You've run global projects for the United Nations in their research teams, which led to the incredible discovery of the Akashic Field. So really keen to learn more about that and go through some questions with you for this wonderful interview. So it's a pleasure to be here today to interview you. I know that you've got honorary PhDs from all over the world, and now we get to share some of your wisdom today. So my first question to you, Professor Ervin, is I've made it my life's mission to make mentoring accessible to everyone of all ages, backgrounds and ethnicities. It's my firm belief that everyone should have access to a mentor. It's not just for business. It's not, why shouldn't it be available to those who have long-term sickness or illness, physical and mental disabilities, and everybody, to encompass everyone in society. So I'm keen to know your experience of using mentors, and how has mentorship helped you in business and in your life?
Well, I would say in my life, yes. I'm not in business, so to speak. I'm in business of life. So it has helped me. At one point, I think when I was a young child, and I was a concert pianist and a piano prodigy, as you perhaps know, during the war, that was the end of Second World War. I was in Budapest, my native city, and my family was known for its liberal views, very anti-Nazi, anti-fascist. And we were seriously threatened as a family by deportation by the Germans, who came invading Hungary at the end of the World War. Then, of course, the end came 6 months or a little less than a year later. But in the meanwhile, there was a very critical period. A lot of people who were Jews or known for the liberal views, anti-Nazi views, they were threatened for being deported to one of those concentration camps in Germany. My mentor at that time was the famous conductor, pianist, and composer, who was at the time the Minister of Culture of Hungary, Ernst von Dohnányi. And his musical works are still part of the standard concert repertory the world over. He, at that point, found out what is actually the threat to my family and therefore to myself. I was 12 years old at the time. He called the Spanish ambassador and told him of the situation. And the Spanish ambassador said, let this child with his parents come to the Spanish embassy. We will save him, we will mentor, we will keep him from the Germans, because Spain was an ally of Germany, and the Germans were very careful not to antagonize the allies. So a Spanish ambassador in Hungary at that time had real position of power. We moved into one of the houses possessed by the Spanish embassy, and actually that saved my life. Dohnányi was my mentor from before. He has taken care of that I could appear in public, that I could meet the right people, that he gave me lessons in piano, which was really just sort of playing for me what he thought is the way things should be played, and I could play in my own way, and we would just compare and move forward together. So this was a great experience, having a man who at that time was in his 70s and was one of the most recognized authorities in Hungary and also the world over, actually. So this, I knew what mentoring can do, can create careers, can save lives. So I recognize that I should, if I can have the ability in life to do be a mentor myself, I certainly want to pick that up.
What a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing, and so glad that you had that, obviously that privilege of having that mentor, that person to make a difference in your life at such an early age. And that's one of the key things that we're trying to instill, is that mentoring shouldn't just be when you have a problem, it should be instilled at a young age and be available to all the youth and the young people today. So thank you so much for sharing that. So when I look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, in my humble opinion, mentoring plays a key part in supporting and impacting so many of them, whether it be peace and justice, economic growth, health and well-being, education, gender equality. Mentoring really is a key factor in helping us to reach these goals. Why do you think it's important for people to pay attention to mentoring?
Well, because we are living at a critical time. We know it. We go through a period now which is almost unparalleled in conscious history, in recorded history. And we need all the guidance we can get. For mentoring, to me, is a very much also, among other things, an intergenerational relationship, where the elders who have experience devote their time, the energy, the attention to the younger people around them, who need to be fostered in their development. So I think to reach the goals that are set by the United Nations, actually any moral and defendable public and human goals, we need the experience that older people, senior people have. Because you can have wisdom at a very young age. I'm not saying that it's not the case, but obviously people have lived through many different periods and also difficult periods in their lives, have experienced suffering, have experienced love, have experienced friendship. Those people have invaluable gifts to offer to younger people. Mentoring, I think, is a way that the senior people can turn to the next generation and say, I will help you grow. I will help you develop what you can be. And this, I think, is a key element of the success of the great enterprise undertaken by the United Nations and by all public spirited organizations in the world today.
I'm so pleased that you touched on that, Professor Ervin, because it is so key. With our mentoring mission, I get the privilege to see all kinds of mentoring initiatives and programs that are making a difference. And there's one particular one that I know of called Grand Mentors. And that is exactly as you just described, where the elder generations are mentoring the young youth of today. And it's just priceless, that invaluable skill set to pass on. It's just so beautiful. In my own spiritual journey, I take many times to go off to retreats to learn from the elders. But I know that it's not quite, not everybody does that. So I really hope that, thanks to you for bringing it up, that we really do see much more of that taking place. So brilliant advice, thank you. In which ways do you think that organisations can use mentoring to advance their workforce and society more effectively?
We're creating a more responsible, more conscious workforce themselves. They themselves, the leaders and the members who follow them, who go with them, need to become more conscious than they were before. Now, consciousness is being conscious of one's actions, of one's responsibilities. It's not something that comes at the spur of the moment. It's something that one acquires, something that one grows into. And a mentor can bring his or her own experience into play so that people around him and her can become more conscious. And organization today has to be responsible to themselves, to the collaborators, to the clients, to the customers, and to the stakeholders, which is actually society all around that organization. Whether it's a business organization, a public organization, an educational or scientific organization, in every way, in every kind of organization, we need to become conscious of our responsibility, of our role, the role to create a more sustainable, a better world. We can do that if we use the experience that we have and if we pass on that experience to others around us. Every leader has that responsibility. Every person who participates in an organization has that responsibility to be open to this kind of element of mentoring, whereby the people who have the consciousness pass on some of that consciousness to the people around them. That is their responsibility. That is their duty and their privilege. And it's very much needed in the world today.
That is so eloquently put, and I just wish that all the organizations and all the directors could hear that today. So I'm going to make it my mission to share your message with them. Thank you so much. So you have achieved outstanding success with all your works and everything that you've done for humanity. What is your personal definition of success?
Well, I am what you might call a systems thinker, but more specifically an evolutionary systems thinker. I believe that the world is not staying put, it's evolving, it's changing, and that there is something in nature, something in the universe, which guides this evolution. It's not random. It's not just anything that can happen, will happen. If we are really connected to the source, as my more recent book, Connecting to the Source, actually spells out in detail, if you're connected to nature around us, to the universe, to the deeper levels of consciousness of humanity, then we recognize that we have an evolutionary mission. To me, success means guiding oneself toward achieving that mission, guiding ourselves toward that mission, toward finding that we can be a conscious part of that evolution. That evolution is toward oneness, toward coherence, toward love, to each other, to nature, to the world, for oneself as well. And that is built into us. It's built into every quantum, every cell of our body. And the definition of success for me is to be able to achieve a higher level of progress toward that oneness, toward that coherence, toward that love, which is present in the world, which is present everywhere. We just have to recognize it. To recognize it, to further it, is to me success.
Thank you so much. That touched my heart so much. Amazing. Thank you. So with the problems that humanity faces, and we're seeing such a disconnection in society, how can we accelerate this paradigm shift that you talk so much about from this separation to oneness?
Einstein said separation is an illusion. It's an illusion provoked by our perception of the world as consisting of separate objects, people and objects seemingly separate. But underneath, it's not true that we will be separate. Another great thinker, William James, said that we are like islands in the sea. We are separate on the surface, but we are connected in the deep. And I think we are deeply connected. And the new sciences, especially quantum physics, quantum disciplines, biology and psychology, tell us about this intrinsic connection that we have. And to further that is basically our moral duty. How to do it is to be part ourselves, part of that progress toward more oneness, toward more love in the world. We can be because it's in us. If we allow our deeper nature to speak, to come forth, if we light that divine spark, as it were, in us, which is the feeling, the understanding, the sensing of the source, where we come from our common ancestry. We all come from the universe. We're all children of this universe. And on this earth, we are all part of the web of life. Now, that to me is the greatest responsibility, the greatest necessity, and the greatest positive factor that we can contribute to become aware of our oneness. Then, with that awareness, we solve many problems. We can potentially solve all our problems, because our problems are due to separateness, due to disconnection, due to infighting, not recognizing that underneath these surface manifestations of conflict and disagreement and tragedy, there is an impulse for a deeper oneness in the world. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Otherwise, nature could be what it is. The universe wouldn't be what it is. So we know this, and it is now our duty to act on it, to create oneness so that we can have the coherence to confront the problems in a united way. Not you or me, you and me, together with the rest of humanity and together with the world around us. That is the recipe, that is the means to go forward. Nothing else will work, especially not in such a critical times when bad steps, poor steps forward can have disastrous consequences. We have the opportunity to do good things if we have this background conviction, realization that fundamentally we are, after all, part of the life of the universe and part of oneness. Consciousness, a great scientist, Erwin Schrödinger, said, consciousness is one. There is no way we can talk about consciousness in the plural, because ultimately we conscious beings are one through our consciousness. And it's time to recognize it, because that's the way we can overcome problems and make progress toward becoming what we truly are, part of a one universe.
Thank you so much. I'm going to use this video to help share those words, because some of the barriers that I face is that, it's taken me personally years of spiritual studies and research to realize the depths of how we're all connected to each other and to the universe. And it's very difficult sometimes. People still dismiss this theory. Yet there's so much research that you've kindly brought to our attention as well, that we are all connected. So thank you so much for sharing that. So I talk about barriers because there are still so many barriers that we do need to, overcome. How do you see the future of humanity?
I am neither an optimist nor a pessimist. I would say I'm a possibilist. I believe in possibilities. I believe in the potential of humanity to overcome problems, to progress toward this higher level of oneness, higher level of consciousness. I believe that this could come forth, this could happen. And strangely enough, I think that the crisis that we live through is a stepping stone to that, because it loses the hold of old conflictual ideas, of our old rivalries, of all selfishness in the world. It draws attention to the fact that we are all in this together, and we can all move beyond this crisis together. So I see the future of humanity as potentially incredibly bright, moving forward to a higher level of consciousness, higher level of recognition of our true nature, and therefore creating a world that is safe and sustainable and humane to all. It is possible. Nothing is stopping it, but our own short-sighted perceptions of who we are. I think if we overcome that, we can truly create a world that is sustainable, that is flourishing, that where life can flourish, and we can be part of that architecture. And we can ourselves be an important architect in creating this better world.
With possibility, we have everything. So beautifully put. Thank you so much. So many of your amazing books are written about consciousness, the consciousness revolution, the connectivity hypotheses, the self-actualizing cosmos, the intelligence of the cosmos, reconnecting to source. What is required, do you think, to advance consciousness in business?
Recognition is required. that what we have been doing in the past, or up till now, actually, is not the way to go. Recognize that there's been too much self-promotion, self-interest, actually self-centeredness and selfishness. We said, put ourselves first. You're only interested in us, our company, at the most our community, or perhaps our state or our nation. We don't see that we are really part of this larger whole, which is the web of life on this planet. We are really part of that. So we need to progress. We need a more, what is in science and philosophy called a holistic perception, understanding that the world is not created by little fragments being randomly put together. The world is a whole. Every organism is a whole. Health means being whole, and a sustainable ecology being a whole ecology. This is an old notion, goes back thousands of years. But now in science, especially the quantum sciences, is being recognized again. Wholeness is the characteristic of our world. And just as we are healthy when we are whole, so our world around us is sustainable, doing well when it is whole. We cannot dismiss what other people are doing and how they are relating to us. Everything we do must promote us, we together, and not me against or against a background of indifference against you or this indifference. So we have to work together. I know this is an old adage, it's something that we have been saying over and over again, but now we are learning how important that is. I don't see how we can create a flourishing world beyond the crisis that we are now experiencing, unless we recognize that we are part of one another and together we are whole. The world can be whole, we can make it whole, and there's nothing in the way of this recognition that the failure rather of the recognition that we are whole. So I have a great confidence that the crisis itself is a kind of a blessing in disguise, that it can weaken the hold of the old ideas, the old conflicts, the old separateness, and move us toward a better understanding of the community of life, the community of consciousness in the world. That is what is needed more than ever today.
Thank you. And in your lifetime, you must have really seen a change in the consciousness movement, with all the great works that you've done to bring this to the forefront and the frontiers, to enlighten everybody on consciousness. It just seems there's still so much more to be done, isn't there? I know that you're doing events and you're inviting world leaders to participate, to spread the word on consciousness and to really get this movement moving. But what else can be done?
Well, we have the possibility now, with the communication that is at our disposal, to bring people together. We know that we do not need to bring them together physically anymore. We have to bring them together through their minds, through the attention, through their consciousness. Is the recognition of the consciousness being one. That, I think, is a key to success, is a key to progress. And it's not difficult. It's the ancient arts, healing arts, have always been based on this recognition of oneness. Also based on the techniques, the mechanisms, the methods of accessing that oneness, that wholeness. That means letting go of the superficial chatter and of our mind, the little rivalries, the little conflicts, and be forgiving, be loving, and be one with each other. That, I think, is a way in which we can move forward. And we can do it because if we allow our nature to reach our consciousness, as the Buddhists have been saying, as all the great religions have been telling us, enter into a deeper dimension, and that dimension is not outside. That imagination is inside you. You, each one of us, is the universe. It has all the impulses, all the motivations, all the tremendous drive to create a world that is more united. That is the flourishing world that is part of us. And if we allow our consciousness through meditation, through mindfulness, through the love of nature, through the love of people, as Gandhi said, just let ourselves be the change that we want to see in the world. That is in us. If we allow that to come forth, I think then we have nothing to fear. Indeed, Franklin Roosevelt said at one point, you have nothing to fear but fear itself. Right now, we can repeat that in the midst of this crisis. Nothing but fear itself. We do not need to fear because we have what it takes in us. Let's just access it, bring it to the surface, and live it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. And my final question, Professor Ervin, we've obviously touched on it before, but how concerned should we be for our world's future? How important is it that organizations use sustainability?
Sustainability simply means that what we do is not bound to fail. When it's unsustainable, that means that we fail, if not sooner than later. Sustainability means that it is proof against breakdown. Not no absolute proof, of course, but we can make our organizations, our businesses, our lives as sustainable as possible. And that is very high because we have all the means for it. We have the resources, we have the energies, we have the know-how. What we lack is what sometimes the political circles are said to be the political will, they say. The political will to recognize that we are more than one country, more than one community or one people. We are all the countries, all the peoples together. That it means sustainability, creating a world that works for all, and it keeps working for all. No limits in space, no limits in time. That is the goal. It's difficult to reach, but it can be reached because life, when it's healthy, then it's sustainable. And let's make our life, human life, healthy by making it sustainable.
Thank you so much, Professor Ervin. I'd like to personally thank you for taking the time to share your wisdom with us, for supporting me in our mentoring mission to make mentoring accessible to everyone across the world. And it's just been such an honor and a privilege to interview you today. Thank you for your lifetime's work in helping to raise global consciousness, to enlighten the world. Please keep doing what you're doing. It's just absolutely amazing to read all your books and to listen to all your wonderful lectures. I know you have many different conferences coming up recently that obviously are really raising consciousness as well to world leaders. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been an honor to interview you.
It's been a pleasure to be talking to you, and I wish you all the well, all the very best in pursuing that important mission that you have undertaken. It is indeed essential. Thank you for your work.
Thank you so much, Professor Ervin. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.